Welcome to today's lecture. In today's lecture, we will solve example 1.4 of the Linear Algebra book by Seymour Lipschutz. In example 1.4, there are two things that we will calculate. The first is the norm or length of a vector, and another is if we are given a vector, how to normalize it. So first we have to calculate the norm, and using that norm we will normalize a vector. So first of all, we have to see how to calculate the norm or length of a vector. Suppose we have u, a vector, and the norm of a vector is the square root of the summation of the squares of individual elements of the vectors. So in R, first we create the vector. So in the first example, the vector is u. So u equals to 1 minus 2 minus 4 5 3. One minus 2 minus 4 5 3. 1 minus 2 minus 4 5 3. Now first we have to square individual elements. So if you say, for example, square dot u, this is the variable where we want to store the square of each element. That is a vector, another vector, and that is u and to the power 2. So you can do that as scalars. So square dot u will be 1 4 16 25 9. Now we have to add these elements. So sum dot square dot u is equal to, there is another function called sum. So if we give a vector as an input to the sum function, it will give all the sum of all the elements. So it will be square dot u. So sum dot square dot u will be 55. Now we have to make a square root of this. So we name it as a norm. Norm equals to square root function and then sum dot square dot u. So the norm will be this. If you can check, see, this is root over 55 and the sum is 55. So we have this 55, so root over 55 is this. So the answer is correct. Now next, in the next example we have two vectors, and first they have calculated the norm of these two vectors. Here I want to say that instead of executing each command one by one, we can have a function norm, a user defined function, and then we can call that function and calculate the norm. In order to do that, in our hard drive we have created one file called functions.r, and inside that file we will write that function. Suppose we name that function as norm, and that is equal to a function, and this is the body within the curly braces. The input of the function is a vector, say for example vec. So first we will do the square of each element. So square dot vec equals to vec square. Then we will have the summation, sum dot square dot vec is equal to sum and then square dot vec, and then we square root it. So norm will be maybe norm dot val will be square root of that sum dot square dot vec, and we return the value, return within parenthesis norm dot val. So this is our function, we have completed it. It will calculate the norm of a vector. Now first we have to load the source. So where is the source? Source, it's in D drive, and then R files, and then within functions.r. So source has been loaded. Then we have to call the function. So norm will be, so this is the variable where the norm value will be stored, and this is our function. So it can be different also, norm dot u maybe. So norm and then u. So norm dot u will be this same. Now we create another vector v as the second example. V is 1 minus 3 4 2. So it will be 1 minus 2, sorry, 1 minus 3 4 2, 1 minus 3 4 2, and w is equal to 1 by 2 minus 1 by 6, 1 by 2 minus 1 by 6, 5 by 6, 1 by 6, 5 by 6 and 1 by 6. So v is 1 minus 3 4 2 and w equals to this. Now first we have to calculate the norm of v. So the norm of v equals to, again we are calling our user defined function norm and then give v there. So norm dot v will be this. Now you want to check it, we have to square root 30. So square root 30 is same, and norm dot w is equal to norm w. So norm dot w is equal to 1. Yeah, so this is 1, so that is same. Now to normalize a vector, for example, I am normalizing a vector v. What you have to do, you have to divide each element of that vector by the norm of that vector. So this is root 32, we have to divide each element by root 32. So we can also create another function which will normalize a vector. For example, the name of the function is normalize, and this will be another function, and the input is a vector, and maybe the norm. Fine. So this is the body. Now in the body we will write, first we calculate the norm. We will use the first user defined function norm dot vec, that is equals to norm vec as above, and then we will divide each one. So normalize dot vec, that is equals to the original vector by the norm of that vector. So similar to scalar, we can give this divide operator as in the case of vector also. So norm dot vec, and then we return that vector, return normalize dot vec. Now again, as this source file has been changed, so we have to load the source file again, and then we can normalize dot v is normalize v. So okay, so another thing we have to give, there are two arguments, one is v and there is norm dot v. So norm dot v, so normalize dot v equals to this. So we have to check whether we are good. So first we'll check 1 by root 30. So 1 by square root of 30, this is same as this, so we can say that it is fine. One thing we can do here is that this is not required. See, we have already calculated the norm using this, so we can omit this one, we are not using it. So we can do, again we have to load the source file, and instead of giving the 2 parameter, we can give 1 parameter, and again we can do that. So this is the same as before. So in this lecture we have learned how we can calculate norm of a vector, and how you can calculate normalization of a vector using R functions. Thank you.